This is Lesson 1-7 warm-up for Secondary 1 Math. In this warm-up, we will review how to solve rational equations. A quick note, reminder, we need to write our answers in set notation. So let's begin with number 1. We have m plus 1 over negative 3 equals 5. So the first thing I do is I draw a line down from my equal sign, helping me separate the two equal parts. And I notice that my denominator is negative 3, so I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3, or negative 3 over 1. Which this negative, multiplying by negative 3, dividing by negative 3, the purpose of that is to simplify it to 1, leaving us m plus 1 times 1, which is just m plus 1. Then we get 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Next, we subtract 1 from both sides of our equation. Remember to keeping it equal, so m equals negative 16. In set notation, this would be m such that m equals negative 16. Okay, so number 2, we have the equation 7 minus n divided by 4 equals negative 6. So again, we draw our line down. We're going to multiply both sides of our equation by the denominator, which is 4. Or we can write it as 4 over 1. And that simplifies on the left. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 1 times 7 minus n is just 7 minus n. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. So now we'll subtract 7 from both sides. So we get n by itself, so we get negative n. Don't forget that sign to bring it down in front of n. And negative 24 minus 7 is negative 31. Now we have this negative here, so what we're going to do to make it positive, we're going to multiply both sides of our equation by negative 1, because a negative times a negative is a positive, which gives us n equals 31. So notation, we say n such that n equals 31. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at number 3. We have the same kind of setup in number 3. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw our line down from the equal sign to help us separate the equal parts. We're going to multiply by our denominator since there's only 1. So this is 2 over 1, or we could write it as 2. So we have 2 times 10 is 20. On the right, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so 3m minus 1 times 1 is just 3m minus 1. And we're going to add 1 to both sides to get the m term by itself, so we get 21 equals 3m. And now we're going to divide by 3, which gives us 7. So m is equal to 7. In set notation, m such that m equals 7. On number 4, we have w over negative 5 equals w plus 2 over 6. Now we have to look for that least common denominator. And so we could count by 5s and 6s. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I ran out of space, so I'll stop there. Then we go 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30. So our least common denominator here is actually going to be negative 30. Remember, one of the denominators is negative, so we're going to make it all negative. And now we're going to multiply by that. But I'm going to write it out as it factored, so we're going to go negative 5 times 6 over 1 time, and multiply by negative 5 times 6 over 1 on the left. So we have the negative 5 simplify to 1 on the left side of our equation. So we have 6 times w, which is just 6w. On the right, the 6 is simplified to 1, because 6 divided by 6 is 1. And we have negative 5. So we're going to have negative 5 times w plus 2. Then we can distribute our negative 5 into the parentheses. So this is negative 5w's times negative 10 equals 6w's. Next, let's get our w's to the same side. So we're going to add 5w's to both sides of our equation. And that will give us 11w's. is equal to negative 10. And then last we divide by 11 on both sides of the equation, and we have W. So I'm going to write it to the left here. W is equal to negative 10 elevenths. Set notation, W such that W equals negative 10 elevenths. Okay, number 5. If we look at our previous example, we already know what our least common denominator is going to be here. The least common denominator is going to be the negative 30, because 6 is a factor of 30. So we're going to multiply, on the left I'm going to multiply by negative 30 over 1. On the right we're going to separate it with the negative 5 times 6 over 1, because those are equal. And on the right, the 6's simplify to 1, because 6 divided by 6 is 1. Then we're going to have negative 5 times 5v's minus 8. And on the right, the negative 30 divided by the negative 30 is 1. So we're just going to have 3v plus 8. Now distribute the negative 5 on the left through the parentheses. We get negative 25v's plus 40. On the right, we still have what we have, the 3v's plus 8. Now I'm going to add, sorry, not subtract, but I'm going to add the 25v's. We could subtract 3v's, but I like to keep them positive when I can. So we'll have 40 equals 28v's plus 8. Now we'll subtract 8 to get the v's by themselves, and that gives us 32 is equal to 28v's. Now I'm going to move over here to the right, and I have 32 equals 28v's. Divide by 28. Now this is kind of a weird fraction that we're going to have to simplify for our answer. So we're going to have v is equal to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this out, or factor this out, so I have 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, over 2 times 2 times 7, because 4 times 7 is 28. So I can simplify out two sets of 2's to 1's, and now I have 248 over 7. So v equals 8 over 7. In set notation, we write it the set v such that v equals 8/7. And there it is. So on number 6, we have 5m divided by 8 equals m minus 3 divided by 6. Here we could look for our least common denominator, but I'm going to show you another method in solving this. Since our denominators are 8 and 6, I know that a common denominator would be 8 times 6, because they're both included. So I'm going to multiply both sides of our equation by 8 times 6. So on the left side of our equation, our 8's simplify to 1, so we just have 6 times 5m's, which would be 30m's. On the right, the 6's will simplify to 1, because 6 divided by 6 is 1. But then I have 8 times m minus 3. Now we're going to distribute our 8 through on the right side of our equation. So 8 times m is 8m's, 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. So now we're going to subtract 8m's from both sides of our equation, and we get 22m's equals negative 24. And divide by 22 to get m by itself. And we find that m is equal to, oh, this is another one we're going to have to factor out here. So let's look at it. We got 2, and then times 12. So maybe negative 12. We'll write negative 12 there. And then we have 2 times 11. The 2's will simplify. We get negative 12 over 11. So in set notation, the set m such that m equals negative 12/11. This concludes Lesson 1-7 Warm-Up for Secondary 1 Math.